Welcome to Bharat Times Transnational webinar series. And this is our third one. And today the topic is Gandhism today. Um, I regret that Dr. Anil Datta Mishra will not be with us today. However, he will be in our next webinar. This one will be conducted by Dr. Ram Mishra. He's the Associate Professor and Head of Department of English at JV College in UP, India, and myself, I'm the editor of Bharat Times, Canada. And so we will go on and do this on Gandhism today. One second, somebody else is joining us as well, which is nice. And so today, the topic being Gandhism today, and the one of the utmost thing that Gandhiji is known for is for his non-violence approach to peace. Okay. So the journey for peace, it begins as peace is sought for as denial to violence or non-peace. Then the journey of non-violence as a dynamic praxis begins. And furthermore, peace is realized on the path of journey of non-violence. So this is coming from this book, which is Peace Through Violence or Non-Violence. Okay, and we all have witnessed Gandhiji's, well, not really witnessed, maybe now in words that we witness his journey towards peace that encourages determination and the innate learned and resulting principles which are revealed and concluding by search for truth. And Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, I'd like to call him as that because through and through, though he has this, the title that was bestowed upon him, also rightly, Mahatma Gandhi, but he was a barrister, a lawyer through and through. He rightly achieved the status of a Mahatma because never before has been a person has been recorded in history who succeeded in abiding by the same ethics and principles which he instilled in his wife and children simply as a way of life. And yet he never shied from his worldly responsibilities. And it is necessary to point out as well that nonviolence theory is different from nonviolence philosophy. A theory has a specific timeline and it's contextual, whereas a philosophy is applicable anywhere, anytime. Over the course of humankind's history, many great men and women have conducted nonviolence approach and have achieved milestones. Nevertheless, Mahatma Gandhi's approach of nonviolence has achieved the status of a timeless philosophy because primarily he experienced nonviolence by living it with his family at the grassroots level. Then he reasoned through, experimented, explored, and demonstrated the effect of nonviolence philosophy at the national level in India and in South Africa. Okay. So today I'm going to just concentrate on exploring Gandhian attire of nonviolence today and see and go through the 5 axioms of that as well. So according to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, just as one must learn the art of killing in the training for violence, so one must learn the art of dying in the training for nonviolence. Violence does not mean emancipation from fear, but discovering the means of combating the cause of fear. Nonviolence, on the other hand, it has no cause for fear. So nonviolence is perceived today as a philosophy that the scholars hold discourses on, like it's just as another one of those ideas, you know. But nonviolence is mocked by commoners who are enveloped with the culture of violence tamed by a few leaders who had the communal riots along with the religious riots, which are for the benefit of a few leaders. Nevertheless, they affect a lot of common people. So when the common people experience nothing but violence in the name of religion or community solidarity, Yes, they do mock nonviolence. Nonviolence is a weapon used by the strong to retain one's perception of strength and to keep the feeble in feeble's place. Satirically pondering why the political superpowers, after achieving all the means for destruction, have simultaneously opted for saving the world for nuclear destruction. Why do we witness this always? A lot of these leaders, whether they're business leaders or political leaders, they have businesses in other countries, and then it passes on to their lineage, to their sons, daughters, and stuff, and they still consider themselves nationals to the country that they're in. Nonviolence is used as an ultimate shield when all other forms of violence and communication fail. At the brink of failure of communication, Gandhi had let the salt march. The ongoing conflict between Palestine and Israel seems to take temporary peaceful tolls, only followed after extreme violent terrorist attacks. This multifaceted phenomena of nonviolence has been apparent in history time after time. Nevertheless, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi brought this phenomena to surface by reaching deep down to his cultural and heritage roots during his stay in South Africa. However, Mahatma Gandhi, he neither presented nonviolence as a philosophy nor held theoretical discourses on it. He demonstrated the praxis of nonviolence, which is he did not teach nonviolence, rather, he lived nonviolence. According to Gandhiji, you must be the change. Excuse me. According to Gandhiji, you must be the change you want to see in the world. So, how and why Gandhiji lived nonviolence? How and why he succeeded in living nonviolence? Let's reflect on the sociology of Gandhi's life. He grew up in quite a traditional family. That's with Hindu thoughts or Indian thoughts, or at a larger scale, Eastern ideals, beliefs, and values. He learned law abroad. That's he acquired the skills of critical thinking and reasoning, and he learned how to penetrate the mechanism of Western policies and procedures. According to Audre Lorde, an American author, the structures cannot be broken from within because they are built to protect themselves. Now, let us consider the dilemma of Gandhiji. He was a professional lawyer and a good one on top of that. He had the skills to combat governing bodies of the world within their domains. He entered their world but found himself to be an alien or from the other side of the fence. He wanted to make the changes from within, but his credits didn't matter. His skills didn't matter. He was an Indian, but his education had taught him the ways of non Indians. He was a non Indian, but he had the longing for his cultural heritage and he was in no way not proud of it. I mean, that just means that he was very proud of it. In a nutshell, he was a simple, clear hearted, well educated Indian entering the real world. So he chose the best in both of his worlds and made it work. Thus, we have Gandhian attire of nonviolence. Gandhiji mentions, I became disgusted with the profession as lawyers, the counsels on both sides were bound to rake up points of law in support of their clients. The winning party never recovered all the costs. I felt it was my duty to befriend both parties and bring them together. I realized that the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties driven asunder. And this is basically what he did with the freedom of India as well. The very basics of Western and Eastern philosophical fundamentals, which were brought together in his approach of nonviolence, were the following. Western political philosophy starts with John Locke's states that human is evil by nature and needs to be controlled, thus is the need for political systems entwined with the management of policies and procedures. Eastern philosophy, on the other hand, as a whole, it's always maintained that human is peaceful by nature, which is developed from the concept of human as a spirit. Thus, we have the concept of inner peace or peace emanating from within. Gandhiji applied dharma. That's the basic principles of Eastern philosophy, which also happen to be the basic principles of Hinduism, and came up with the form of satyagraha to combat the, at that time, current policies and procedures hindering the freedom of India. Now, going on satyagraha, literally it means satya, that's truth, and agraha, which is firmness or unwavering search for the truth. Gandhiji emphasized that satyagraha is the most potent method of ensuring an endurable peace. He further mentioned that truth is God, nonviolence is love in action, and peace, the result of enduring conflict resolution, is the fruit of satyagraha. So he practiced two forms of satyagraha: civil disobedience and non cooperation. He ruled out direct coercion, such as trying to physically block someone, hostile language, destroying property, and not even any secrecy was permitted. All these were ruled out because any of them would undercut the empathy and trust which Gandhiji was trying to build. And it would hinder that change of heart, that is, social reform. His followers had to take face beating, imprisonment, confiscation of their property cheerfully, hoping that this willing suffering will bring about a social reform that will cause a change of heart. The non cooperation had a dynamic of its own, which was based not on appeals, but on the power of the people themselves. Converting the opponents or even molding the public opinion was not part of the agenda. Non cooperation was a dynamic which implied no fear. Coercion is effective only as long as it is feared. For example, prisons are feared, tear gas is feared, torture is feared. What if people outright declare that they're not afraid to go to prison, that they don't fear tear gas and they don't fear torture? What happens then? Well, when there is no fear, coercion fails. Having no fear is a process that follows from approaching nonviolence as creed versus policy. So, nonviolence or ahimsa as a creed and as a policy, according to Gandhiji, he said that laws to be laws admit of no exceptions, and nonviolence is a law of our being. He preferred persuasion to coercion, just as the Greeks did. That's persuasion to be a mark of the civilized. Gandhiji had even laid down 5 simple axioms of this base on his argument that a creed has to be all pervasive and cannot pertain only to certain activities and ignore others, while a policy cannot have the strength of a life force. So the 5 axioms of his creed, nonviolence, creed are: first one is nonviolence implies as complete self purification as is humanly possible. That means it's a rigorous ethical discipline and taking of the vows. In other words, you preach what you do, not what you say, but what you do. Second axiom: man for man, the strength of nonviolence is in exact proportion to the ability, not the will, of the nonviolent person to inflict violence. That means everybody has the potential, but doing is what counts. So you cannot just go on theorizing everything, you must practice your theory. Third axiom: nonviolence is without exception superior to violence. That was always for him. That means the power at the disposal of a nonviolent person is always greater than he would have if he was violent. That is, the greater the moral and the political authority, lesser the force needed for exercise of that authority. Fourth axiom: there's no such thing as defeat in nonviolence, because end of violence is surest defeat. Because when there is violence, so one side is going to win and the other side is going to lose. So defeat is definitely there. And with non-violence, we can achieve this win-win situation as well. And the last axiom was the ultimate end of nonviolence is surest victory, if such a term may be used of nonviolence. In reality, where there's no sense of defeat, there's no sense of victory. So the votary of ahimsa never aims at defeating anyone, but merely at achieving a desirable result. Now, let's reflect on the critics of nonviolence for a moment and realize that if the idea of nonviolence or ahimsa was or is, in fact, wholly impossible, then inevitably the humans will destroy themselves or be destroyed. However, our presence in the present dynamics is a witness that humans are not destroyed. Look at the population, though it seems to be going in that direction from time to time, right? So what is it that keeps us going? What is that thread that binds us on the side of the fence of non-destruction? Because somewhere in there is that will to stay non-violent that has saved us from being engulfed by violence. That's looking at the glass half full. Hinsa, that's violence. It does not need to be taught. Man as animal is violent, but as spirit, man is non-violent. The moment the man or the woman awakens to the spirit within, he or she cannot remain violent. The doctrine of ahimsa is nothing less and nothing more than a call to human beings to regard themselves not as superior animals and to remind themselves of their moral and spiritual status, but their dignity as human beings. This is mentioned in Gandhi's concept of satyagraha and his 5 axioms of nonviolence as creed that we just talked about. Now, at that level on the platform of nonviolence, what is there? No fear. Let's reflect on Gandhi's sentiments again as a law practitioner. He said, I felt it was my duty to befriend both parties and bring them together. I realized that the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties driven asunder. He shied away from violent responses to violent attacks because an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Having no fear in mind, one must intervene and respond with reasoning. Nonviolence is a potent force that must begin with the mind. We're in this new age where every moment we witness formerly thought impossible ideas becoming possible and helping us shape our reality. There are endless discoveries in the field of science and more or less in the field of violence. So why not give a chance to discovery of the idea of nonviolence? Nonviolence is not impossible, especially when it is approached with no fear. So this was my take on Gandhiji, on Mahatma Gandhi, and inside him, he had that vital lawyer present at all times. And to sum him up, this is what I got from his teachings: no fear, no secrets, let the justice unfold, in that truth triumphs. Okay, so that was my take on this. And now I'd like to be back at you, Dr. Sharma. And let me just stop did I stop the share? Okay. All right. Yeah, just give me a second. I'm trying to get out of this. Yeah, stop share. There we go. Okay. Dr. Ram Sharma, to you. And everybody knows he's from UP, India, and he's the head of the English department, and he's an associate professor as well, and he's conducting. Dr. Ram Sharma, you're on mute. Okay, now it's
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. And today's topic is Gandhism in the present context or scenario. Mahatma Gandhi was not only a political leader, he is a spiritual master, social reformer, educationist, and economist. If we really want to understand Mahatma Gandhi, we have to become Mahatma Gandhi because his views are so diverse. And the problems we are facing today, we will find that Mahatma Gandhi has expressed his views on all these problems already through his concepts. According to Mahatma Gandhi, his life should be his message. His life is his message. And this is the journey of Advocate Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to become Mahatma Gandhi. From Advocate Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to become Mahatma Gandhi is not very easy. It's a long journey, and how much dedication, devotion, sincerity it needs, we cannot explain it. According to Albert Einstein, Gandhiji has proved his ideals of non-violence, ahimsa, amidst two world wars. Gandhiji has lived amidst two world wars, and he tried to do his best to give this concept as propounded by Dr. Monika ji of non-violence. Albert Einstein has said, I'm quoting from him, generations to come will scarcely believe that such a man as this one, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth. You can imagine the lines. What's the importance of Mahatma Gandhi? And if we really want to understand the importance of Mahatma Gandhi, we can find it on the foreign lands. So many statues, so many followers. Mahatma Gandhi has not only inspired Martin Luther King of United States, Nelson Mandela, Aung San Suu Kyi. Ma'am, please unmute. Who is this person? Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, you're on.
Ji, ma'am.
Yeah,
There was some disturbance.
I muted the others. Yeah.
Actually, if we study the views of Mahatma Gandhi, we find that these are the essence of Vedas and Upanishads. He has taken these ideals and views from Vedas and Upanishads, just like he used to say, Paris Saras Dharam Nahi Bhai, Vaishnav Jan, Allah Iswar Tere Naam. These teachings can be said by a spiritual master. He is not only a political leader. Einstein has wrote to Gandhi in 1931 in the German language. I am quoting from that quotation. You have shown through your words that it is possible to succeed without violence, even with those who have not discarded the method of violence. Unquote. Again, I am taking some quotations from Albert Einstein. I believe that Gandhiji's views were the most enlightened of all the political men of our time. We should strive to do things in his spirit, not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by non-participation in anything you believe is evil. Unquote. Mahatma Gandhi has given course on the maintenance of villages. Village will maintain a village theater, school, public hall. Non-violence with this technique of satyagraha and non-cooperation will be the sanction of the village. Actually, Mahatma Gandhi has started his concept from villages because villages are the roots of India. Now we are forgetting our villages, and we are here in India. We are thinking about smart cities. But we have to make our villages smart. Then only there will be smart cities. The government of the village will be conducted by a panchayat of 5 persons annually elected by the adult villagers. The villagers should develop such a high degree of skill that articles prepared by them should command a ready market outside. Every village's first concern will be to grow its own food crops and cotton for its cloth. You can understand that he forced upon the food and clothes. When our villages are fully developed, there will be no dearth in them of men with a higher degree of skill and artistic talent. Perfect sanitization. It should have own waterworks ensuring clear water supply. This can be done through controlled wells or tanks. Gandhiji posed that villages should have its independent system of water. Panchayats should be based on truth and non-violence. Mechanization is good when the hands are too few for the work intended to be accomplished. Spinning and weaving mills have deprived the villages of a sustainable means of livelihood. Next, we discuss a theory of trusteeship. Gandhiji posed that if we are having enough money, we should try to share with the poor, or we should try to support the other person. Suppose I have come by a fair amount of wealth, either by way of legacy or by means of trade and industry. I must know that all that wealth does not belong to me. What belongs to me is the right to an honorable livelihood, no better than enjoyed by millions of others. The rest of my wealth belongs to the community. So this was the concept of Mahatma Gandhi, but presently we are seeing the greed, excessive greed, and even Mahatma Gandhi has said that there is always enough for man's need upon this earth. But if we look at the greed, there will not be enough. There is always enough for man's need. There is not always enough for his greed. Earth should be governed far more by love. State is a soulless machine. I'm quoting from Mahatma Gandhi. I would prefer that no centralization of power in the hands of the state, but an extension of the sense of trusteeship. Trusteeship ये है कि आप सहयोग करें, आपके पास जो भी चीजें ज्यादा हैं वो आप शेयर करें अपने जिन लोगों के पास वो चीजें नहीं है, और ये आपका कर्तव्य बनता है कि आप उन्हें सहयोग करें, एनकरेज करें, मोटिवेट करें, और जितना संभव हो सके उन्हें आप सपोर्ट करें. और इसी से ये कॉन्सेप्ट निकलता है कि महात्मा गांधी जी का जो ये ट्रस्टीशिप का सिद्धांत है, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः हम मान सकते हैं कि लेट ऑल शुड बी हैप्पी. नॉन वायलेंस इज ए पर्सनल nature but a social virtue to be cultivated. We must appeal to the good in human beings. Moneyed men may earn their crores, but so as to dedicate them to the service of all is perfectly sound. Ten tak den bhujisa. If I take anything that I do not need for my immediate use and keep it, I think it from somebody else. It is the fundamental law of nature. Nature produces enough for our wants from day to day. और ये अगर हम नेचर की बात करें तो ये नेचर से ही हमने ये शब्द कोइन किया. वैसे भूमि, गैसे गगन, वासे वायु, नैसे नील. जी नमस्कार जी. If I take anything that I do not need for my immediate use and keep it, I think it from somebody else. It is the fundamental law of nature. Nature produces enough for our wants. यही महात्मा गांधी जी ने कहा है कि अगर हम देखें तो प्रकृति वो हम सबके लिए वो सब चीजें हमें देती है, प्रदान करती है, लेकिन जहां अगर हम स्टोर करने की बात करें तो गांधी जी ने ये ट्रस्टीशिप का सिद्धांत दिया था. Nature produces enough for our wants from day to day. Economics that permit our country to prey upon another are immortal. वसुधैव कुटुंबकम. महात्मा गांधी ने वसुधैव कुटुंबकम का भी एग्जाम्पल दिया है हमें कि हम जो है ब्रदरहुड, यूनिवर्सल पीस की हम बात करें. The neglect of this simple principle is the cause of the destitution that we witness today. True economics, on the other hand, stands for social justice. Economic equality is the master key to non-violent independence. Working for economic equality means abolishing the eternal conflict between capital and labor. Ahimsa is definitely an attribute of society. The rich cannot accumulate wealth without the cooperation of the poor in the society. और गांधी जी ने आगे जो कॉन्सेप्ट दी हैं, सर्वोदय की दी है, सत्याग्रह की दी है. सर्वोदय मीन्स सभी all sections of the society should be lifted up. कि हमारी जिम्मेदारी बनती है कि हम जो है सभी जितने भी समाज के वर्ग हैं उन्हें साथ लेके चलें, उनका उत्थान करने में सहयोग करें. नॉन वायलेंस, नो पिलेज, नो indiscrimination क्रिमिनल सिविल डिसोबीडियंस। गांधी जी ने, अगर हम देखें, स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर वो समय के थे, उन्होंने ही साक्षी भाव, फास्टिंग, आम्र अनशन, सत्याग्रह, ये सब चीजें स्पिरिचुअलिटी की हैं और ये गांधी जी ने उस समय हमें प्रदान की। देयर कैन बी नो रूम फॉर सेल्फिशनेस, एंगर, लैक ऑफ फेथ और impatience in pure fast, infinite patience, firm resolve, single mindedness of purpose, perfect calm, and no anger must be necessity be there. बैक टू विलेजेस, पुनः गांव की तरफ आप लौटें। गांधी जी का विचार था कि अगर हम गांव को उन्नत नहीं करें हमने, तो हमारे जो शहर हैं वो उन्नत नहीं हो पाएंगे। और उनका यही विचार था कि गांव एक इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिट है अपने आप में, तो पहले हम जो है गांव को हमें उन्नत करना पड़ेगा, गांव की तरफ हमें लौटना पड़ेगा। पॉलिटिकल पावर मीन्स कैपेसिटी टू रेगुलेट national life through national representations. If national life becomes so perfect as to become self-regulated, no representation becomes necessity. If the villages perishes, India will perish too. गांधी जी ने कहा कि अगर गांव नष्ट हो गए तो भारतवर्ष भी नष्ट हो जाएगा। इंडिया विल बी नो मोर इंडिया, भारतवर्ष जो है भारतवर्ष नहीं रहेगा। हर ओन मिशन, अब यही चीज मैं, मोनिका जी तो कनाडा में रह रही हैं, वो वहाँ बता सकती हैं कि वहाँ कितने गांव हैं। मैं यूएस में देखा तो वहाँ मुझे गांव ही नहीं दिखाई दिया। यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में करीब 15-16 बार जा चुका हूँ, लेकिन वहाँ पे मुझे गांव ही नहीं दिखाई दिए, सब शहर ही दिखाई दिए। तो ये गांधी जी का विचार था, देखिए, कि अगर गांव नष्ट हो गए तो भारतवर्ष नष्ट हो जाएगा। Her own mission in the world will get lost. The revival of the villages is possible only when it is no more exploited. Respect for nature. गांधी जी ने कहा कि आप प्रकृति की सम्मान करिए। अंतरिक्ष शांति, पृथ्वी शांति, वनस्पति शांति, शांति देव शांति। Industrialization on a mass. We have to concentrate on the villages being self-contained, manufacturing mainly for use. We have to make a choice between India of the village that are as ancient as herself and India of the cities which are as creation of foreign domination. अगर हम देखें, ये हम समस्या से ग्रसित रहे, कोरोना से हम पीड़ित रहे, और हमने जब महत्व समझा कि प्रकृति का क्या महत्व है, गाँव का क्या महत्व है, क्योंकि कोविड केसेस जो है जितने शहरों में थे उतने गाँव में नहीं थे, क्योंकि गाँव वाले लोग प्रकृति से सामंजस्य बनाकर ज़्यादा स्वस्थ हो रहे। Smart cities, not smart villages. If we want Swaraj to be built on non-violence, we will have to give villages their proper place. Khadi is the symbol of Indian humanity, of its economic freedom and equality. Khadi means decentralization. Heavy industries will need to be centralized and nationalized. Nationalized, राष्ट्रीयकरण की बात की महात्मा गांधी जी ने। Village industries, hand grinding, soap making, paper making, match making, oil pressing, ये सब कुटीर उद्योग गांधी जी ने बताए हैं कि न केवल कैसे शुरू किए जा सकते हैं, बल्कि बताया भी है कि ये कैसे इन्हें करना चाहिए। When we have become village minded, we will not want imitations of the West or machine made products. Imitations of the West का गांधी जी ने हमेशा विरोध किया। मशीनों का भी अंधाधुंध प्रयोग पे उन्होंने मना किया। और भारतवर्ष जहाँ पे जनसंख्या 1 अरब से ऊपर जा पहुंची है, तो जो जनशक्ति है उसके उपयोग पे उन्होंने ज्यादा बल दिया। ये सब विचार गांधी जी के, हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि उसी समय के, अगर हम देखें तो आज की हर समस्या का समाधान हमें गांधीज़म में मिलता है। Organic manure, village taming, government will supply cotton seed, ghani, pressed oil, handmade paper, village soap, cattle wealth, no place of glamour and pomp of cities. Village exhibition, not a tamasha but advertising medium for traders. Infuse the impulse through models of villages, one as existing and other as improved one. Charkha, to solve the problems of economic distress in a most natural, simple, inexpensive and business life-like manner, symbol of nation's prosperity. Unpaid employees of corporations, ये मैंने पिछले अपने लेक्चर में भी कहा है कि टुडे वी आर बिकमिंग अनपेड एम्प्लॉइज एंड व्हाट दिस कॉर्पोरेशंस वांट, दे वांट टू सेल अस एवरीथिंग। इससे हमें गांधीज्म ही हमें बाहर निकाल सकता है। इट कीप द विलेजेस अवे फ्रॉम आइडलनेस, डाइंग, वीविंग, चरखा काटना। और चरखे का कितना बड़ा रोल भारतीय मूवमेंट में रहा, और गांधी जी का मैं ये कह सकता हूँ कि इतना प्रभाव रहा कि चल पड़े जिधर दो कदम डगमग से, चल पड़े हजारों लोग उस ओर। कि गांधी जी ने चरखा, खादी, ये सब कॉन्सेप्ट लोगों को दिए और लोगों ने अपनाए उस समय। तो आप लगा सकते हैं कि महात्मा गांधी का कितना प्रभाव था। आज हम देख रहे हैं भारतवर्ष में चुनाव जीतने के लिए कैसे कैसे जनमानस को लुभाया जाता है, पैसे बांटे जाते हैं, चीजें की जाती हैं, लेकिन महात्मा गांधी का प्रभाव आप देखिए, कश्मीर से लेकर कन्याकुमारी तक जो उन्होंने कह दिया, लोग चल पड़े उनके पीछे और कारवां बन गया। It keep the villagers away from idleness, dying, weaving. Village was an independent unit. Potter, cobbler, weaver, farmer, to all the money not able to go out the village. इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिट गांधी जी ने बताया है कि वहां पे क्या है, कोबलर, पोटर, वीवर, फार्मर सब रहेंगे और इकोनॉमी गांव की क्या है, इंडिपेंडेंट होगी, उसका पैसा बाहर नहीं जाएगा। वहां पे कुटीर उद्योग होंगे, लोगों को रोजगार मिलेंगे। और शहर जो हम देखते हैं कि आज भारतवर्ष में हर व्यक्ति शहर की तरफ भाग रहा है, गांव में रोजगार नहीं रह गए हैं, क्योंकि हमने जो है गांव को इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिट नहीं हम बना पाए, और हम जो रूट कोच थी वो हम उसको, विलेज को हमने नहीं माना। Varied occupations and creative talent regulate prices according to needs of the nations. Every agricultural country requires a supplementary industry to enable the peasants to utilize the spare hours. Organization of machinery for purpose of centralizing of wealth and power in the hands of few and for the exploitation of the many. गांधी जी ने अगली कॉन्सेप्ट दी स्वदेशी। Introducing reforms, we should have educated classes, have received our education through foreign tongue. We want to represent masses. Much of the deep poverty of the masses is due to the ruinous departure from Swadeshi, the economic and the industrial life. Village of India as self-supporting and self-containment unit. Next is cow protection. Next, Gandhiji has propounded village sanitization, cleaning of tanks and villages, and he also said that we should protect the nature. Variety of we should have some kind of inner urge that nature is not different from us. तो गांधी जी ने कहा कि गो हत्या पे रोक लगे। गांधी जी के जो विचार हैं, अगर हम आज के प्रेजेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखें तो जितनी भी समस्याएं हम देख रहे हैं, वो आतंकवाद हो, प्रकृति से जनित कोविड वायरस की समस्या हो, आज भारतवर्ष में रोजगार सिर्फ शहरों तक सीमित रह गए हैं उसकी समस्या हो, खादी लगभग धीरे धीरे गायब होती जा रही हैं चीजें, और लोग एक तरह से अपने आप को मॉडर्न कह रहे हैं कि हाँ हम तो मॉडर्न बन गए हैं, आधुनिक बन गए, हमें कुछ नहीं करना है। और but what Gandhiji has said that is he forced upon that you can get the education from English medium, but your views should be full of Indian culture. Gandhiji educated men and women from the cities have neglected the village of India, कि वो देखते हैं कि जो गांव से बाहर निकल गया, एजुकेशन प्राप्त कर ली जिसने, वो वापस गांव की तरफ नहीं जाते। Young men claiming to be the fathers of tomorrow should be the salt of the nation. If the salt loses its flavor, wherewith shall it be salted? आखिर में मैं मार्टिन लूथर किंग का एक कोटेशन के साथ मैं अपना लेक्चर एंड करूंगा। अकॉर्डिंग मार्टिन लूथर किंग से हम बहुत अच्छी तरह से परिचित हैं कि उनका कितना बड़ा नाम है अमेरिका में, और उन्होंने क्या कहा गांधी जी के विषय में। आई हैड हर्ड ऑफ गांधी बट आई हैड नेवर स्टडीड हिम सीरियसली। As I read, I become deeply fascinated by his campaigns of non-violent resistance. Gandhiji was probably the first person in the history to lift the love ethic of Jesus above mere interaction between individuals to a powerful and effective social force on a large scale. Love for Gandhi was a potent instrument for social and collective transformation. It was in this Gandhian emphasis on love and non-violence that I discovered the method for social reform that I had been seeking. I unquote. तो अगर हम गांधी जी का प्रभाव देखें तो मार्टिन लूथर किंग पढ़ें, अफ्रीकन गांधी नेल्सन मंडेला पढ़ें, आंग सांग सू की पढ़ें. तो यही है, if we study their writings we will find what was the impact of Mahatma Gandhi upon them, though culturally they are not the same. तो यही गांधीज्म का यूनिवर्सल एक्सेप्टेंस है कि वो अमेरिका, कनाडा, बर्मा में भी उतना ही प्रभावी है और साउथ अफ्रीका में जितना भारतवर्ष में है. तो ये जो यूनिवर्सल ब्रदरहुड, वसुदैव कुटुंबकम की जो ये भावना दी गांधी जी ने, और सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः की जो कॉन्सेप्ट दी, वो एक स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर ही दे सकता है. तो आई वुड लाइक टू एंड, महात्मा गांधी was not a political leader, he was a spiritual master, social reformer, educationist. सभी उनके गुण, सारी चीजों को अगर एक साथ मिला दिया जाए तो गांधी या महात्मा गांधी तैयार होते हैं. थैंक यू वेरी मच डॉक्टर मोनिका जी. मैं क्षमा चाहूंगा.
Yeah, so आपने एक question raise किया था कि are there villages in Canada? Definitely villages are everywhere, except we don't call them villages. We call them small towns. They're small town community towns, you know, so there is that small town mentality here a lot. People do kind of like, you know, make knit groups. Or,
actually, madam, I visited USA and I never found.
You wouldn't find village similar to India over there. There might not be as much, you know, the soil or the farms or anything like that, but they're all.
I visited, ma'am, the areas of Amish people.
Yeah.
They are living in huts very much with nature. तो वहाँ तो महसूस हुआ था कि गांव है, क्योंकि और मैं एक घटना बताता हूँ. मेरे पास फोटोग्राफ है, मैं मुझे ढूंढना पड़ेगा वो. कि एक सड़क है, क्योंकि आमिश लोग जो है वो ना तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का यूज करते हैं, ना वो टीवी का यूज करते हैं, और प्रकृति में रहते हैं वो, और गाड़ी भी उनके पास नहीं मिलेगी, बग्गी यूज करते हैं, घोड़ा बग्गी. तो मैं जब देख रहा था, मैं उनके एरिया में गया, तो सड़क के एक तरफ तो गाड़ियां जा रही थी, बड़ी फैंसी गाड़ियां, बड़ी बड़ी, और एक तरफ घोड़ा बग्गी जा रही है. तो मैंने फोटो लिए हैं. तो एक जो एक डोराभास जो दिखाई दिया, तो यही है कि लोग हम क्या चीज अपनाना चाहते हैं, क्या हम करना चाहते हैं, वो अपने ही उसमें खुश हैं, घोड़ा बग्गी में वो खुश हैं.
बात नेशनल लेवल पे भी आ जाती है, क्योंकि नेशनल लेवल पे वो यहाँ पर होड़ भी है ना कि जीडीपी हायर हो, ये हो वो, क्योंकि प्रेजेंटेशन का बहुत है. You know, the contentment, inner contentment, I'm not sure, like people put that like down a point, but the most is like what it says on paper, you know, how it shows in figures. So that's one of the reasons I would say as well. So that's why like the presentation always has to be like that. Now all those villages type looking places, they are part of the museums here now. There are village museums too. So how it used to be. So it's interesting. It's all there. And I just wanted to, actually there was one question that was raised by Gandhiji himself, and that was, how should one live? And according to him, he always said to ourselves that there's enough in the world for every man's need, but there is not enough anywhere for every man's greed. Anyways, thank you, Dr. Ram Sharma, for being here for today's seminar. And next one we will have, and we will definitely have Dr. Anil Dattamisha with us. And he is, again, let's see, um, he's the Deputy Director of the National Gandhi Museum in New Delhi, India, and he's author of many books on Gandhiji himself as well. So great salute to Gandhiji, namaskar to Gandhiji, and we should always be, as you pointed out very well, that to most of the conflicts or the questions today, they're answered through his philosophy. So, which is, I hold also very true. So, thank you everyone for joining. And you can always send us questions and join us on our WhatsApp group. And you can always watch these webinars on Bharat Times YouTube channel as well. And our WhatsApp group name is Bharat Times Canada, and we'll keep you updated. And we have these webinars every week. This time we had it on Tuesday. Usually it's on same time, but on Saturday mornings. So whatever it is, we will keep you updated. So join our WhatsApp group and be keep yourself updated on YouTube channel as well, and Bharat Times website, bharattimes.ca. Okay, so we
Thank you,
will
ma'am.
see you in the next seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.